guys ranked outside the top 32 in the top 247 that we think could jump into that top 32 range. And I'm going to start with a guy in my backyard in Birmingham, Alabama. That is top 247 quarterback Christopher Vezina from Briarwood Academy, and a guy that we have ranked inside the top 40 right now. Really impressed at the Elite 11 finals. I got to see him also in Nashville at the Elite 11 regionals. And the first time I went out on the road for 24/7 Sports a year ago, I saw him at the All Gas Showcase in Montgomery. He was a guy 6'4", probably 205 pounds. Now has probably put on 15 pounds more, around that 215, 220 range. But a guy that can spin it. And I think in terms of the toolkit, the developmental upside, there's a lot to like with Christopher Vezina, and a guy that could move into the top 32. Now, you have to keep in mind there's already 6 quarterbacks in the top 32 already. That has never happened in the NFL draft. Excuse me, that has only happened once. That was in 1983 when 6 quarterbacks were taken. So a 7th for us, if we were to put Vezina in there into the top 247, that would be breaking a new record in terms of the NFL projection. The next guy I'm going to go to is wide receiver Noah Rogers from North Carolina, the 3rd wide receiver commit from Ohio State. There's already 2 in the top 32 already with Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate. Noah Rogers is a guy that I like a lot. 2 years ago, popped a 4.49 at one of the UC Report camps. Runs really well. Impressed at the OT 7-on-7 event there. Our guys, Chris Singletary, Andrew Ivins as well. Really liked what they saw from him. And in terms of really the skill set, as crazy as this sounds, he might be the guy with the most upside out of the 3 between Ennis, Tate, and Rogers. So a lot to like with him. And you're talking about the best wide receivers coach in the country, arguably, depends who you ask, and Brian Hartline. So once he gets up to Columbus, I think there's a lot to work with Noah Rogers. So 3rd guy there that I'm going to go to, that's C.J. Allen, top 247 linebacker, and a guy for us, once he made his debut in the top 247, was a top 75 guy. He is a mover. He right now is ranked number 43 and the number 2 linebacker in the top 247, a guy that ran a 11.16, also a 4.6 240 at 215 pounds, rushed for 1,000 yards last season in 16 touchdowns, over 9 yards per carry, a 3-phase player. And you talk about what Georgia has done defensively, obviously with Dan Lanning now going to Oregon, but inside linebacker coach and co-defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann is going to be another guy that I think is going to be able to get the best out of C.J. Allen. And they, without a doubt, have the best linebacking core in the country with Raylan Wilson, Troy Bowles, and C.J. Allen. So a lot to talk about there and a lot to be excited about. Let's get into it. I'm going to give you 3 guys, okay, that we talked about this before the show, but 3 guys currently ranked outside of the top 32 in the top 247 that you think they got a shot. Hey, if everything goes right this fall, they play well, these are the guys that have the traits that we feel could really get into that 5-star conversation. I'm going to start with a guy that you love. You've been high on him for a long time, but Damon Wilson.
Yeah, he's locked for my freaks list, which comes out 9 days from now, maybe 10 days. I'm trying to do quick math in my head. Look, I told you before we started this, I compare him to a Ferrari with the work ethic and the durability of an F-250 truck. And what do I mean by that? This is a blazer, speed guy off the edge at a premium position, but at the same time, he's got that blue-collar work ethic. He, plays hard every snap. He spends his summers doing demolition for his dad, cleaning up houses. So I love Damon Wilson. The step he took between his sophomore and junior season was amazing, and I'm expecting him to look even better here as a senior. And I'll say with Damon Wilson, the big thing with him is he has 2 showcase games. This upcoming Friday, he's going to square off against IMG Academy. Obviously, they have a good offensive line, but he's going to be matched up with Francis Mauigoa, who we're both super high on. And then later on in the season, Venice High School, they travel and they face Clearwater Academy International. Clearwater Academy International is home to Lucas Simmons, a top 100 tackle that's committed to Florida State. So I think Damon Wilson has a runway and an avenue to work his way up into the top 32. And the best of the best want him. Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Miami, they're all involved in that recruitment. We'll see where he ends up.
He's abusive on tape. I mean, he looks like Bobby Boucher out there. I love this guy. I mean, he can do everything in terms of what you want off the edge. 6'3", 230 pounds and change, but violent, excellent first step, can go speed to power. He's got very heavy hands, and very powerful as well. Drew, I think he can play in a couple different fronts, whether that's a 3-4. I think that's probably naturally where he ends up, but I think he can play in a 4-3 as well as what he's shown at Venice. But Drew, let's stay on the defensive line in the front seven and an edge type here, right? So let's go to PJ Adebawore, and a guy whose brother, you mentioned your freaks list, but his brother, Tommy, was on the freaks list. He's at Northwestern for Bruce Feldman. So a lot to like here, track and field background for both brothers, but I'm going to let you take it away on this one.
Well, I think I'm going to call him Mr. 6 PB&Js a day. Remember, I was talking about the Future 50, about his diet, how he put on so much weight. He's up to 6'4" and change, 225 pounds. That's impressive, but so is his wingspan, 84 inches at the most recent NFL scouting combine. That's in the upper, I think, 96th percentile. So this is a big, long kid, tons of twitch, 4'3" in the short shuttle, 34-inch vertical jump, and he's a sub-4'9" guy in the 40-yard dash. Cooper, we love him. We love the pedigree. I think this is just a case of we're going to have to see him in maybe an all-star event going up against the best, and that's what stamps him as a fifth star. But the Oklahoma commit, a lot to like about him just with Damon Wilson.
Well, we saw him at the Future 50, and he went up against Lucas Simmons. I thought he moved exceptionally well. You talk about that 7-foot-plus wingspan. He also has a track and field background as well, participates in multiple events. I think this is a guy, he plays a little bit high right now, but in terms of the raw athletic traits, you can't teach what he has. So I don't think there's a better situation for him to go to than the one that he's going in Norman. Brent Venable is going to get his hands on him, and I think this guy, without a doubt, we look back a couple years from now, would not be surprised if he's a top 32 pick. But Drew, I want to go to another guy that really shined at the Future 50, and this guy was Deshaun Womack, who is a man. Talk to me why you like him.
Well, I know you like Deshaun Womack because we talked about it in the car as we left the Future 50. LSU commit. I mean, this is a guy who had 23 tackles for loss, 11 sacks last season at St. Francis Academy, which traditionally churns out elite players. To me, when I watch the tape, and we're seeing it right now, just not a lot of dudes move like him at 6'4", 250 pounds. I think he's another scheme versatile defensive lineman, which is really the theme with all three of these guys. If we talk PJ and Damon Wilson, they can play multiple spots, but he just gets after the quarterback. We know where the NFL is. We know where college football is these days. Pass rushers are at a premium, and I think he's just one of the best guys, and that versatility really is what stands out to me, Cooper. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, he could probably play an edge. You could probably kick him inside as a 4-eye, and then who knows, third and long, maybe even line up as a 1 or a 0 and just let him go eat after that quarterback.
Yeah, on a 4-3, I think more of a 5 technique, 3 technique. It really doesn't matter where you put him. He proved that in Bradenton. We also saw that align on tape, but give a lot of credit to defensive line coach Jamar Kane and the job that he's done in Baton Rouge, coming over from Oklahoma. They were getting it done there. Jackson Howard, another guy, Joshua Mickens, that they like as well. So LSU in Baton Rouge, that is certainly a position that you got to get right in the SEC. I think that Deshaun Womack has the talent and the ability to play early day one at LSU, which is saying a lot. Lofty expectations for somebody to play day one defensive line at LSU. So, Drew, I said my piece already. I don't know if you heard it. I think the audience already heard it for VOD reasons, but it's important that you hear me. So my 3 were Chris Vezina, the quarterback, Clemson commit. Also, I had on there Noah Rogers. I want to kind of get your thoughts on this one because this one was interesting to me. I feel like I kind of had to take a chance on the guy, on one guy out of the 3 that I picked, and Noah Rogers was that guy. But the more that I kind of uncovered about him, I thought, hey, out of the 3 guys that Ohio State has committed, 4 guys, actually, Bryson Rogers as well, but out of the 2 that are committed currently in the top 32 with Brandon Inniss and Carnell Tate, I kind of thought Noah Rogers kind of had the best physical makeup out of those 3. He's just a little bit raw, but I think he's going to develop nicely at the next level. Tell me a little bit about what you saw from him in Las Vegas at the OT7 event.
Well, I also saw him at the Under Armour camp in Atlanta. I didn't really know too much about him. I mean, he was a kid from North Carolina, and it was a cold, rainy day. You're trying to align with the roster. But I just remember him, his ball skills, his ability to go up and win a football in the air is very unique. I think he needs to improve his concentration. And, sometimes he fights the football a little bit. But I think if you listed all 3 of those guys, I mean, committed to Ohio State. Noah Rogers might have the highest ceiling of the bunch. Now, that doesn't mean he's the best prospect right now. That doesn't mean he's going to play right away at Ohio State. I think me and you both would agree that Brandon Inniss is further along and very polished, and Carnell Tate is as well. But when we're talking upside, I absolutely agree with Noah Rogers. You could see him going to that zone 6 room and coming out as a 1,000-yard receiver and a guy that NFL teams covet.
So keep an eye on Noah Rogers. But Drew, the last one, a guy in your area, top 247 linebacker, and a guy that has continued to ascend for us, but that is C.J. Allen, part of the best linebacking core, I would say, in terms of recruiting classes, position groups at Georgia. Troy Bowles, I mentioned earlier, Raylan Wilson as well. But C.J. Allen, I kind of highlighted him as another guy that could make that jump.
Well, that's interesting to me. I thought you would have went Raylan Wilson, just because Raylan's a little bit bigger than CJ, and I think he's got the better track times. But, I think it's a fair thing. Two-way snaps, he can run people down. I think in the past I compared him to little Nakobe Dean in terms of a guy that reads and reacts. So I love that one. I think he has a chance. And really, all 3 of Georgia's linebackers could potentially end up as a 5-star in the class. They're all right now inside the top 100. And we like all 3 of those guys. Glenn Schumann is doing an excellent job there in Athens. We always give Todd Hartley the credit for stacking the tight end room. What about Glenn Schumann stacking that linebacker room?
Glenn Schumann trying to get an Oyster Boys offer on the coaching staff, so we'll see about that. But C.J. Allen, he kind of reminded me a little bit of Jalen Walker. That's kind of where I'll wrap. Jalen Walker was a guy that ended up a 5-star for us in the 2022 cycle per 24/7 Sports. So a lot to like about C.J. Allen. Regardless, very good player. Despite where he might end up in the final rankings. I'm going to wrap this back around on Christopher Vezina, but a guy, to me, over the last year, one of the first prospects that I've gotten to see. He's just gotten better every time I've gotten to see him. I kind of love his play style. He's very physical. He's 6'4". He's 215 pounds. He carries himself exceptionally well. From what we saw at the Elite 11 finals, and I had to go back and watch it on tape because we weren't there, but I thought he was a guy that really handled himself well when it came down to the really kind of the pro day drills and circuit that they put him through. I thought he did well, but he is a guy, to me, like, if you're a Clemson fan, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Trevor Lawrence. And I will say that from more of a play style standpoint, but a guy that rushed for over 600 yards last season, he has that in his repertoire. He throws a great deep ball. I think he's still developing as a passer. But the leap that he has made from just last season to this offseason, if he can translate that to the football field this year at Briarwood in Birmingham, I think this is a guy that can jump into the top 32.
I think I love and agree everything you just said about Vezina. I think the one X factor for him, if you want to call it an X factor, is what he does off the field and in between the helmet and between the ears. I think he's a guy that can be a leader. And it's the perfect guy to stack right after Cade Klubnik. And we know how much Dabo Sweeney loves Cade, and there's a chance he'll play as a true freshman. But I think what Christopher does off the field is pretty unique. And I actually had a college coach tell me, hey, we really, wish we had gotten Vezina inside our building because we think he might be that guy with the it factor that can elevate a program and take them from a fringe college football playoff team to a team that competes and wins a national title. So I think that's super interesting with Christopher Vezina. It'll be interesting to see how high he can rise in these rankings because, senior season is going to play a big part in this final 32.
Well, there you have it. Keep an eye on those 6 guys come this fall, currently sitting outside the top 32 in the top 247, but all have a chance to move up in the rankings and potentially end up as 5 stars